Alright, folks, so here's the part two of chapter three in the section two. Yep, going over so many things now. Oh, also, by the way, I didn't show the disclaimer last time, so this is the disclaimer. 3 seconds, and back to profile picture. Yep, or the chapter picture or whatever. So this gathering of soldiers in flames. So make sure to remember that it's in flames. It's hot and spicy. Hot mess. Thomas took out a barrel and sat down on it with a mug full of wine. We rush into the city and crush the enemy. The soldiers around him sang along with him, phrase by phrase, chant by chant. Thomas drank some wine to give more power to the chant. Into the streets, slice here, slice there, strike here, strike there. Push, 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 further. He then started drumming the barrel with his hands. Mighty city, full of people, still fell, by us, by us. What do we do? All these arrows covering the ship. Pluck them out for our use unto the next one. Why do we wait? Why not we rest forever? No. Till we die? No. We must raid, we must raid. We are the raiders with no fear, striving through the bloody streets, leaving behind pain and death, dodging the deaths, not knowing our fate, passing with the nick of time. We make our fate, making the plan, but too much hassle, too much pain, too much grief on our side when we die, when we die. He paused for a while, apparently having a sad face, but he quickly shook it off and continued. We won't die, with God on our backs, Savior of the world, coming to rescue. Hoping for the best, hope we're in, mercy upon us, shield upon us, no one can resist. He took some more gulps of wine and looked at those around him. Let's do our usual one. Others nodded, so he cleared his throat. It's called Upon the Seas, Roman Sail, through the ends of the triumphant march. They chanted that one for a long time, and when the cargo ship emerged out of the Calicatanus River and into the Great Sea, they slowly finished the chant and got back to sailing the ship. The Corycos galley's captain spotted the cargo ship. There's our enemy who's trying to flee! Go! Chase after them! The two galleys picked up their speed by pressuring the oarsmen. The captain went around checking on soldiers to make sure that they are all prepared to assault the enemy ship. Then he focused on planning a rightful strategy to both stop the ship and the smaller one which was tagging along behind the bigger one. An evaluator spotted the galleys. Lord Pericles, look! Those galleys are coming at us. What do we do? Are they going to attack us? Lord Pericles looked at the galleys. What do you mean, what do we do? We need to defend our ship and the little ship behind us. He sighed. One after another, the enemies just didn't seem to be willing to give up any time soon. He then looked down at his soldiers and realized that they're definitely not in the mood to fight. Where's our catapult ship? The evaluator said. It's gone. Lord Pericles pointed ahead. It's way over there. We had been separated for a long time, and I don't think they could see that we're getting attacked. Lord Pericles said. Then Lord Pericles made the soldiers prepare for another fight, so the support infantry reluctantly loaded their weapons to slaughter the enemies. Soon, the galleys sailed to the range of fire, and the Corycos archers started shooting their arrows, and the Lord Pericles support infantry countered by shooting their own weapons. No way! Crossbows? Everyone, hide behind the shields! The galley's captain shouted. Some archers and oarsmen got hit, so others immediately raised up the galley's shields to block the incoming shots. The galley's captain flinched upon seeing smokes from the gunners. What? Guns too? Still, the galleys bravely approached the cargo ship. Throw it now! Lucio flamed the fireball for Apicius to throw from the top of the forecastle. The fireball barely smashed itself onto the first galley's front deck, and the fire started spreading rapidly. What? How in the world? The galley's captain cursed, and he hastily looked around to see if his soldiers were faring well. We have no choice. Quench the fire and let's just cut off that rope and take back the raided goods at least. The Koriko soldiers immediately went about quenching the fire and looked on as the captain was pointing at the rope, which bound the cargo ship and Seleucia's small ship together. Initially, Lord Pericles' soldiers decided not to put everything into the cargo ship since it may weigh down too much and get stuck while traveling downstream. Therefore, the remaining goods along with some filthy villagers were loaded onto the small ships so that they could steal the ship too and sell it later. Thus, the first galley immediately shifted its direction and the second galley followed along in the first one's direction to aim for the small ship. And the first one hooked itself next to the small ship by shooting some grappling hooks. After that, the Koriko soldiers got on board to start cutting the ropes. The crossbowmen and archers got up on the stern castle to shoot at them. Suddenly, Lord Pericles raised his hand to stop them. Enough! The soldiers flinched and looked at Lord Pericles. Enough killing for today. Just let the enemies have what they want. Lord Pericles said. Why though? Those are our raided goods, a crossbowman said. Yeah, and that ship has some of our captives, an archer said. Lord Pericles shook his head. First, those aren't really valuable goods. Second, the enemies are not trying to attack us anymore because they know how strong we are, which means they have already acknowledged our strength. So it looks like all they want is to take back their ship and let us leave. Therefore, let's be honorable raiders and not fight the enemies who aren't trying to fight us. The soldiers looked, and soon enough the enemies swiftly retreated after cutting the rope and taking the small ship. Therefore, they went back to their own areas to talk amongst each other. When much of the unrest started to subside amongst the soldiers, Lord Pericles decided the time was ripe to make his grand statement to the soldiers. Thus, he rallied them around him. All right, men, we have had another successful raid, in great thanks to each and every one of your hard work. Therefore, I would like to give you guys a nice break in Laodicea, a large trade city. However, we would need to stop by Cyprus Island to spend the night to rest. After that, I'll let you guys loose at Laodicea for around a week, or a bit more. Immediately, the soldiers erupted in cheer. They all liked the idea, and if they just endure a couple days more, their ultimate prize will be given. By then, they noticed that the two combat ships came back for them, so all ships sailed deeper into the Great Sea in unison. Lord Pericles looked at his recorders. What's your casualty so far? The soldiers immediately silenced themselves to hear because it was one of the most important announcements after each and every raiding campaign. One recorder took out his papers to read. So far, out of 150 of us, 63 have minor injuries, 22 have heavy injuries, and 5 soldiers died. Lord Pericles sighed. Tell us who those 5 soldiers are. They're all archers, light archers to be more specific, the recorder said. Now, tell us how they died, Lord Pericles said. Some soldiers started noticing Lord Pericles' weird mood. There seemed to be something more to it than just deaths. Ephraim had his thumb by his chin, thinking about why the Lord is going specific on the deaths. It was usually so that Lord Pericles would make the recorders state out the casualties, in order to keep things clear and honest with his soldiers, but he never persisted on letting sad topics last longer than one statement. It was so because he didn't want to make the soldiers be demoralized and weak. Even the low casualties and deaths had bad consequences on the soldiers if spoken too much. The recorder looked at Lord Pericles as if he didn't understand such a question, so Lord Pericles had to repeat it for him to say it. They died by the enemy's arrows while defending from the forecastle. Lord Pericles nodded gravely, and he started walking forward to the soldiers and stopped at a closer distance. Now, guys, I'll speak about it in greater detail. They were the light archers who died from the enemy's arrows. Their comrades are lying around in pain with various injuries. He then looked at Captain Niles, who was himself down with an injury to his left shoulder. Captain Niles, make this a time for you to reflect on yourself and learn that wearing armor has its advantages. for most of your recruits have died, and those remaining are temporarily out of service to the state. All at the same time, all the armored archers alive and well because they were wearing armor. He looked at other soldiers. The fortress armor has more than enough armor and weapons to fit everyone twice and over. While I'm positive that there are many of you who have money piled up in your storages and vaults, so please consider buying some armor for the benefit of the fortress. You'll get 1/10 of the price off if you buy from it within the first month we arrive there. Also, such action benefits all of us in the long run by strengthening the economy on the islands. The process is like this. Just like how the blood rushes around in our bodies to make us function. Society functions well if the money is in good circulation amongst the people without much of it being stuck in various people's storages. So please, spend some money, folks. There will surely be some structural changes coming to the fortress, so your money will be greatly appreciated. He cleared his throat and thought for a while before speaking. Lastly, make sure that you're wearing your armor at all times. I know that they get heavy and we sweat by wearing them for too long, and I understand that some of you want to take them off as soon as possible. However, you should refrain from such actions, even when everything seems to indicate to us that we have won. When I retreated at the end, I saw quite many of you who have taken your armor off. That's not good. That's a safety and security infraction which jeopardizes everyone else's on the ship along with you. The soldiers muttered out their agreements or nodded their heads. Lord Pericles nodded in satisfaction. Furthermore, we are a small force, so we need to be very mindful about our losses and come up with ways to reduce them. Simply said, I can't have any of you being easy human shields for the rest of us because we are few. So each and every one of us is much more valuable than, say, a soldier serving an emperor with tens and hundreds of thousands of other soldiers under his command. Therefore, always be very careful out there. I need your courage and valor, but I also need you to retreat back alive. Yet still, I was highly satisfied about your work today, for you have continuously raided so that the harbor had heaps of goods, and always came around to support the melee guys on time, valiantly defended for the melee guys to retreat first, and lastly, maintained the defense on the ship even without my presence. Therefore, you shall all be nicely rewarded in the future, and also when we go back to Principal. And that's all I have for you. The soldiers cheered and muttered out their own thanks to Lord Pericles. After that, everyone went back to their own places to relax and spend the rest of the day. Why did you guys retreat? Commander Burke shouted in severe anger. Sir, the enemies were too strong. They kept on killing us, a soldier said. Yeah, and it was hard for us to counter because their ship was too tall for proper aiming by our archers. And the melee soldiers were easily defending the dock, another soldier said. Commander Burke sighed in utter failure and motioned at his driver to continue driving and reach the dock to see what had happened. When they reached it, he was demoralized to see such a slaughter. The enemies were immortal. We couldn't kill any of them, a wounded soldier said. Give us armor just like theirs, or else we don't stand any chance should they return next year, another soldier said. No! What's the point of giving you guys armor if you guys can't even vanquish a small group of raiders? So again, absolutely no. Commander Burke quickly looked around. But where are the enemies now? They're already gone. Some of our horse archers started following their ship down the river, but they haven't come back yet, so we don't know, an archer said. Commander Burke grunted. Why aren't you guys following after them? It is pointless now. As long as the enemies remain holed up in their ship, we can't do anything to them. And we don't even have any suitable ships to chase after them, the archer said. Then Commander Burke cursed and got down from his wagon and walked around the battlefield, inspecting the wounded and dead. There were a lot. Really, so many have died, especially by the villagers' dock. And there was so much blood. Therefore, it was a crushing defeat on the part of Seleucus' force. It was so shameful of a defeat and so quick of a series of actions that he felt it was pointless to report to the Binbashi's overlord at Konya regarding such an incident, and instead just stash it under the rug to pretend that nothing had happened. Thus, he simply sat on the barrel and fretted over such a shameful day. Long time later, he spotted two galleys coming up the river towards him. He waited patiently until the galleys docked and the captain approached him to converse. Are you Seleucia's commander? The captain said. Commander Burke nodded. Yes, I am, but who are you guys? We are the naval relief force that you have requested, the captain said. Commander Burke flinched. I don't remember requesting a naval relief force, so where are you guys from? The captain's assistant came over to them. We're from Korikos Fortress. Commander Burke slowly nodded. Okay, that's a relief. He then started scratching his head out of confusion regarding the whole thing which was unfolding right before him. Did you guys somehow crush the raiders then? I mean, they lived by this river, and you guys just came up, so you all must have met them. The captain sighed. We weren't able to crush them, but we have managed to procure some of the raided goods that they took, and amongst them we even have some villagers whom they have captured. Commander Burke sighed. It's fine, that shall do. But tell me, were they that strong? Yes, they were too strong to be simple raiders. They had many crossbowmen and archers defending their big ship. They were all armored. Then some of them even had guns, not to mention seeing a small bombard on top of their stern castle. And lastly, one guy threw a small firepot which almost ignited my ship. Therefore, I figured that it was my best interest to just cut off the bind on Seleucia's ship and rescue the captives, the captain said. Upon hearing those words, the flame of rage started kindling in Commander Burke's chest. In the previous years, the raiders would just come and go, stealing some food and supplies from the villages, so they weren't much of a bother. But these raiders had not only managed to break down the very gates of Seleucia, but also plundered deep into the city, as deep as the military supply buildings around the harbor, and then very close to the city's granary. He remembered seeing how those supply buildings had been totally emptied, and this will mean the punishments will be quite serious on him. When the stolen ship was returned and its captives were freed back to their land, the captain started walking back to his galleys. Suddenly, the captain stopped. Commander Burke, we'll keep this quiet, so you won't be too much in shame for your incompetence. But in the future, you would need to pay up a small fee for the naval relief, whether monetarily or some sort of assistance. With that, I will go back to Coricos for now. Wait, hold up. Commander Burke cleared his throat when the captain turned around. I want to pursue after those raiders, and you and your men will help me in that. The captain frowned. I'm afraid I cannot do that. You will do that. Commander Burke slowly got up from his seat. Are you threatening me? The captain said. Commander Burke sighed. I am just reminding you of the things that you need to fulfill before returning to your fortress. The captain started chuckling and then slowly approached Commander Burke. He came very close and even placed his right hand on Commander Burke's back. Then he suddenly grimaced. What do you mean, the things that I need to fulfill? You really say that while you couldn't even stop the raiders on your own? Let alone bring back even a parcel of raided goods from them. Just give us a break, Commander. You're not even worth our time to give assistance, so be grateful that we have helped you out this much. Commander Burke stood shocked and he couldn't speak anymore. So the galley's captain resumed walking back to his galleys and got his crew working and left the dock. Lord Pericles, we need to be careful during river raids next time, a recorder said. Lord Pericles was having the recorders and evaluators meeting in the ship's stern castle. The time came for a headache work and he felt like stopping such a meeting altogether. Why is that? Lord Pericles said. Because we struggled to navigate our ship up the river and struggled again down the river due to it not being deep enough. If our ship somehow hit a rock, then they would have broken, the recorder said. Lord Pericles nodded. Hey, Tobias, that's why I made us stop before we crossed the island. But that was still risky. Unless the river is wide like the sea, just like the Danubius, we shouldn't sail straight into rivers, an evaluator said. Okay, Costas, I get you, Lord Pericles said. I told you about that, Pericles, but you still did it, Commander Proteus said. Yes, I knew about its repercussions, but I just felt like winging it, Lord Pericles said. Another evaluator flinched. Lord, that shouldn't be the way in which you carry out your plans. I know, the fortress needs money, and I just didn't have the time to think things through. Lord Pericles sighed. Let us talk about something more productive. What came into my attention today was that our soldiers had tortured and killed too many of the enemy civilians. We need to preserve them and sell them later to reap much gold. But if the guys kill lots of them, then that's suicidal for us as the raiders. Do you have any ideas for fixing the problem? A spy snorted. Punishments? Lord Pericles shook his head. No, I'm finding out that punishments aren't really working. More than that, I can't really punish if everyone's doing the same thing. And that's what has been happening so far. They remained silent for a while. Tobias chuckled. Lord, you need to allow the guys to have servants of their own. Women servants to satisfy their sexual needs, and men servants to do much of the tedious hard work. Lord Pericles nodded in realization that Tobias was thinking the same thing. But he just couldn't let his men have what they wanted, which was being allowed to have servants in the fortress. No, Tobias, no. You're asking for a great change in the fortress. The very fundamentals of how it works will be knocked down to its core if I agree to such a measure. Another evaluator smirked. Well, Lord, we do have lots of space in the fortress for a great change you'll be anticipating. We could make buildings to house servants, finish more tasks, acquire more supplies, and if the guys are inspired due to your promises, then they'll work hard to make such change possible. And it'll boost up their morale for months and years to come. Lord Pericles frowned. Sotiris, you're asking for a chaotic fortress. I want a fortress that's neat and which has good order. Commander Proteus tapped on Lord Pericles' shoulder. Hey, Pericles, I actually like Sotiris' idea. For too much good order also brings much boredom. I am saying that our guys need further inspiration, motivation, and satisfaction while living and working in the fortress. A recorder flipped through the paper. Yes, Lord, we are a growing community, but in numbers and in age. When the sexual needs aren't fully met due to our fortress regulations, which forbid housing anyone else other than its keepers, the soldiers, and civilians who have to stay to get their medical needs, the guys tend to get crazy and strange. Another recorder gazed at his paper. Adding to that, Lord, as for my observations, I have noted an increase in homosexual behaviors because the guys just can't get sufficient sexual needs. Lord Pericles cleared his throat. No, Mickey, is that for real? No, Mickey shrunk back into his seat. Yes, Lord, but please have mercy on them. They just don't have any women around. They're stuck with each other, so some of them make do with what's available to them. Lord Pericles sighed. It seems that some of us fall through and become weak-minded to those things. But why didn't anyone tell me about them sooner? An evaluator cleared his throat. Lord, it's actually a taboo to even speak about it. Yeah, Pallas, I know that's a taboo, but as a lord, I would like to know when my soldiers are having a hard time so I could try to help them on time, Lord Pericles said. Sotiris smiled. Lord, if you would like to help them, then having women servants around will easily fix up those problems. Silence, Sotiris. You're giving me a headache. Lord Pericles yawned and looked around quickly. Okay, guys, disregard the first topic. We won't touch on that anytime soon. So, why don't you guys tell us what had happened on your end, or what you have found out during the raid, or anything else you have? After the meeting, the participants got to know that the enemies had focused most of their attention on pushing through the western strait while leaving other streets open for the soldiers to raid more. Thus, Lord Pericles was satisfied with his staff members' work, and dismissed them for the day, and then got into the stern castle to observe the soldiers' behaviors. Commander Kairos sat on the chair next to Lord Pericles. They seem happy, huh? Lord Pericles gazed at the soldiers. Yeah. Commander Kairos drank some wine. Brings me back old memories. Back then when we were serving under the Fourth Lord. Lord Pericles chuckled. Yeah, those were the good times. Unlike now, I never had any headaches back then. Why aren't we stopping by Famagosta? I'm feeling quite nostalgic right now, Commander Kairos said. Lord Pericles took a bite off a smoked fish. No, that could wait, because our guys can't wait to be set loose. Commander Kairos chuckled. Pericles, always thinking about our guys first. Lord Pericles nodded. Yeah, the guys' morale is very important. Commander Proteus suddenly approached them. Gosh, Pericles, you always forget to take your wineskin. He handed the wineskin to Lord Pericles. Lord Pericles gazed at the wineskin. I wanted to lift temper for today, but I guess that can't be helped. He took it and drank some. Here, Proteus, let's barter. He handed a smoked fish to Commander Proteus. Commander Proteus smiled and took it. Well, thanks. He sat down in a chair. Thinking about Cyprus. Years ago, didn't the Fourth Lord announce in Famagusta that he'll be resigning and the lordship passes on to you? Yeah, it was shocking to see that stubborn old man giving up on ruling and retiring as a farmer, Lord Pericles said. I know, right? That old guy never said anything about giving such a position to someone else before his death. Commander Proteus looked at Commander Kairos. Hey, Kairos, it seems you had an easy day today, right? Commander Kairos chuckled. Of course, I love easy days. He stretched his arms. But this one was a really weird raiding campaign. Don't you think so? Hmm, seems like it. But we still succeeded, right? Commander Proteus said. Yeah, we did, Lord Pericles said. So, where do you think we should land in Cyprus? Commander Kairos said. Suddenly, they heard Lord Pericles snoring. What the? Why is he? Commander Kairos said. Commander Proteus chuckled. I guess he was extremely tired. This guy pulled an all-nighter. He just couldn't wait to see Seleucia showing up that he did most of the watch duty himself. And he even did all the sailing too. Oh, Commander Kairos said. Then they both yawned at the same time and chuckled upon realizing that the other was tired too. Then they accepted their slumber and fell asleep. On the other hand, the soldiers continued sailing until they docked at a small island off the northeastern coast of Cyprus. After eating dinner, they all fell asleep. Apicius yawned as he woke up. He couldn't sleep well on the ship and he felt like taking a short walk around the island. When he got down from the ship, he saw two people far away. One was sitting down on a chair, and the other one was doing something while standing right behind the first one. Therefore, curiosity settled in Apicio's mind. Then he decided to go check them out. When he drew near, he found out who they were. The one sitting down was Ephraim, and the one standing behind was Andel. Apparently, Andel was cutting Ephraim's hair, and it looked like he had just started cutting. Soon, Ephraim felt something and looked up and saw Apicius. Good morning, Apicius. Good morning, Ephraim. Apicius then looked at Andel. Good morning, Andel. Andel muttered out his greeting. So Apicius pointed at Ephraim. But why are you getting a haircut? Ephraim turned his head back. It was time for it to be cut short. Apicius came near. Well, what do you mean? You look awesome with long hair. Thanks for the compliment, Ephraim sighed. However, the Lord states that it's a shame for a man's hair to be long, so I need to cut it short. Apicius flinched. Oh, really? Ephraim nodded. Yes, really. He glanced at Apicius. You need to cut your hair too. They seem a bit long at this moment, coming down to your shoulders. Apicius felt his hair. Gosh, I never knew that. But do I really need to? Is it that serious? Yes, it is very serious. You wouldn't want to be seen as a woman, do you? Ephraim said. Apicius sighed. Well, no. But long hair still looks cool on some men, especially you. Ephraim cleared his throat. Furthermore, a man shouldn't shave off his beard. That's why I'm just letting Andel trim my beard to a short length, so that it's manageable. He completely ignored Apicius' statement. Andel suddenly paused what he was doing and chuckled. Wow, Officer Ephraim. You never cease to give out the teachings. Seriously, regardless of the time and locations. You're always ready to teach. Ephraim nodded. Yes, that's right. Born a teacher, always a teacher. Andel chuckled again. I guess you kind of went too far there. Ephraim chuckled. Yeah, it seems. He slowly looked at Apicius. Wow, you don't have any beard. Apicius sighed. No, so I don't think I can uphold your second teaching. Andel frowned. Yeah, Officer Ephraim, what do you do if you're born with no beard? You and I have full beards, so we're good. He suddenly felt his cheeks. Maybe I should stop shaving off the sideburns due to your teachings. But anyways, guys like Apasius, Lucio, Seth, and some others don't have any facial hair. So what happens to them? Ephraim sighed. I don't know. I've never put any thought to that. They got silent for a while, so Andel resumed cutting Ephraim's hair. Hey, Apasius, do you want to get a haircut when I'm done with Officer Ephraim? Andel said. Apasius blankly stared at Andel. Ephraim chuckled. Apasios, accept it when you have a chance. Andel's really good at cutting other people's hair. And plus, he's going to be busy pretty soon because I'm starting to see that other guys' hairs are getting long too. Alright, so I'm going to end it here. So, whichever Apasios decides, that's going to be on the next one. Thank you for listening and see you.